Attention is currency. We all have it and we all want it. So pay attention without paying attention. And what do I mean by this? It means a lot. So listen carefully. The things that are pulling our attention, we must scrutinize. Welcome back to another Monday Message. My name is Francis. If this is your first time being here with me today for the Monday Message, this is where I just share what's on my mind, what's on my heart, with the hopes that it encourages you to think a little bit deeper and begin to take action on the things that you'd like to change and the patterns that you'd like to disrupt. So like I said, attention is currency. I believe we underestimate the power of distraction in our lives. Like, we kind of get it and we do our best, but the distractions are creating major deficits in our lives. We must be so selective in who we give our attention to. We must question why and for what. We must ask questions that challenge the hidden agenda. In 2021, Google's Loretta and Amazon's before Alexa Super Bowl 2020 ads tied as the most expensive Super Bowl commercials ever, with a cost of $16.8 million for like 30 seconds, y'all. Like Bob Marley said, "Here comes the con man coming with his con plan. We won't take no bribes." And I'll add, we're doing much more than staying alive. We're gonna thrive. All we need to do is see. That's Bob Marley's song, Crazy Ballheads. I've been quietly, not so quietly, watching many people grasping certain narratives that have been at the forefront of our attention for a number of years. And those narratives are served daily to us on a platter of distraction. I too was caught up with my own narratives. And what I finally realized was that these narratives kept me away from my own healing journey. Anything that was low vibrational, I was swimming in it. I was so distracted with so many things outside of myself that I had to shed so many layers of rage, hate, depression, anxiety, even pleasure, you name it, all of it, just so that I could truly see who I was. Our purpose here in this physical plane called Earth is to learn the lessons we need to learn for our souls to evolve, period. And if we do not, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, the baggage, the trauma that's been embedded in our family's DNA will remain. So why do you think people say things like, my grandmother had depression and so did my mother and now me? Or you see even maybe generational money issues. I bet you're tempted to say, well, it's the system. It is until it's not. This stuff that's in our families of origin continues on the spin cycle until someone turns the spin cycle off. It's not a coincidence, and I've shared this before, that my father and my brother both died on the same month, on the same day, 6 years apart. So my question to you is, who will it be to break the chain, the patterns that have attached itself to your lineage? And since you're watching this video, I'm calling you forward. But don't worry, you don't have to do it alone. In fact, healing may require temporary isolation, but the healing journey isn't solo. Even as I continued on this path, I finally was able to heal the wounds that were keeping me stuck in this pattern of self-sabotage, relieving myself from a reoccurring nightmare of reliving the same lessons over and over again. And truth be told, there's still things that, my soul is still working through. But I was finally able to see the path to heal. And it's all because I saw what this was all about. And I realized that the agenda had nothing to do with me. I won't get into what the agenda is, because if I do, it'd be another distraction, right? But most people who understand the message within the message will understand. All right, so let's continue. Feelings are just data. I say this often. They explain what state we're in and in what direction we need to head. Often, if we're feeling depressed, we're not going to feel like taking much action. However, if we feel frustration or anger, these are emotions that stir something inside of us that if we allow it, it can create movement, real forward momentum, but only if we're willing to use it as a catalyst for change. Often we become so incredibly frustrated, so incredibly distracted, and take that anger somewhere outwards, from like the blame game to the yearning of wanting something to be different, that we forget who the most important person in this whole entire equation is. It's us. Because getting caught up with the external world will not help us heal. We might use some of that rage for a bit as fuel, and that might get us going for a little bit, but we need something that we can actually stick to. There are moments, if we're lucky enough to find a relationship that shines the mirror so bright and so clear that they help us to unlock the key for us to heal. Many of my relationships became indicators and roadmaps for me to look at my own stuff, to say, okay, wow, This has got to change. So like I said, we might use some of that rage for a bit as fuel when that's not the most effective path to change. Sure, a few moments of blame or yearning of how life would have been different if that thing didn't happen to us. But if we stay there long enough, then all we're doing is cementing ourselves into victimhood, recycling old pain, like refusing to replace bald tires because they're too expensive. Living a life that we don't have the courage to change is expensive. It's expensive in time. And we might have multiple lives, but we don't need multiple lives. We just need one to get this thing into balance. There are a few phrases that you might hear me repeat, and I'll continue to repeat them. In fact, I repeat them not just with y'all, but with my clients and even with myself. If there's anything that you do for 2023 is to remember these phrases as you move towards healing, towards changing the generational narratives of your lineage and creating the best version of yourself. Sometimes before you use these phrases, you must check in with yourself. I always say to pause for a moment and create a cross with your palms, place them over your heart and ask yourself, what is really going on here? What is it am I feeling? And what is it do I really need? Usually when something happens and you have an immediate reaction to something, like it's so intense that you almost lose either a bit of time, a bit of yourself, or you find yourself stuck that you couldn't pull away because the emotion was so incredibly intense. Ask yourself, what is happening? Is this a distraction? Am I distracting myself from something that I really need to know right now? And let me just sit with that. Let me reflect. Let me get curious as to what is actually going on here. With each pull, avoid the distraction and turn inwards. Next, go deeper, because when something pulls you off balance, the only way to find out why is to dig deeper. Most people would just rather not face what's really going on, and I get it. It's hard. It's not easy. It brings up a lot of unsettling emotions, but in fact, most people avoid facts that could really help them. We literally would prefer to remain ignorant to something than know the truth, and that's just human nature. I'm actually writing about this, and I went down a deep rabbit hole, and I was like, it made sense. You know, in college, I avoided looking at my bank account instead of using that information for change. I avoided it because I knew looking at where the balance was would make me feel bad about myself. And that maybe might be a small scale, but a study was done to show that we really do avoid knowing things that could really make us feel not so good. But knowing the truth is what will help us move forward. How can we move forward based on false pretenses? You know, if your friend gave you a bowl with empty food in it and said, enjoy the food, would you pretend to eat it? No, of course not. We'd say, hey, now, there ain't no food in that bowl. So just go deeper. I encourage you to not live in false pretenses. I encourage you to lean in, because here's the phrase within the go deeper phrase, which is, it's through depth that change can ultimately happen. All right, here's the last phrase. For change to happen, you must disrupt the pattern. Let's say you've been commuting to work one way for a very long time, and it took you a whole hour to get there. And then a friend says, oh, I know a route that will save you 20 minutes. You say, nah, I like the 1 hour traffic filled route that I've been driving for the last 5 years. If there's an opportunity for you to break the pattern of something so that you can regain something that's going to better your life, take it. We must get curious with our lives. We must get curious about how we can break the patterns that have been a relentless pain in our butts. Breaking the pattern is what will shorten the healing journey. It will literally accelerate it. But for some of us, it might take a little longer, because that too is part of the journey. But it is possible to break those patterns if we scrutinize, ask for help, and get support. And self-reflection will help you break those patterns. So checking in with yourself and really trying to connect the dots, even doing your best to notice what those patterns are, will help you disrupt the patterns. It won't be easy, but it's absolutely necessary as you go through this process. Okay, let's recap. The 3 phrases are: avoid distractions and question their motives. Go deeper, because it's through depth that change can ultimately happen. And break the patterns that keep us stuck, because we need to replace the old information with the new information. And that's how change happens. If you commit to this process, then change is inevitable. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and let me know which phrase resonated with you the most. Let me know if any ideas or tips that you've used to sort of get through your own healing journey. I'd love to hear it. And also be sure to share anything that's really got you stuck right now. All right, I'll see y'all next week.